All right. Today we're going to be using our yoga blocks, and of course it's optional. If you prefer not to bother with it, that's okay. If you have a yoga block and you would like to integrate this into your practice today, turn it so it's the tall side up and put it down between your feet to start with. And then we'll get settled in our chairs. Letting your hands rest softly on your legs, relaxing your shoulders, moving around a little bit if you need to, so that you can just settle into a nice, centered, relaxed position. Close your eyes if you like. Just find your breath. I'm going to try to speak a little more loudly today because I know my voice is a little hard to hear when I'm this far away from the microphone. So your feedback is welcome. If it's still too quiet, please just let me know. Now feel the sensation of your hands resting on your legs. See if you can lighten that sensation. So we're not gripping our legs. There's not any pressure between your hands and your legs. And then notice your feet on the floor. Again, lighten that connection. Softly lay your feet on the floor. And feel the weight of your body resting in the chair. And now let's take a couple more mindful breaths before we start to move. Today, our first movement is a very gentle turn of the head towards your right shoulder. So it's just a small little turn here until you feel your neck start to stretch. And you feel a little compression on the right side. Just notice how this affects your neck. And then from here, we're going to let our head start to roll down towards the right side and around to the front. And then up towards the left side. And pause. And now let's do some half circles. So we'll do 5 half circles. Exhale as your head comes down and around. Inhale up to the right. Exhale back down. Now we're going to do 4 more. So you're exhaling as your head comes down. Inhaling as your head comes up to either side. We'll do that 2 more times to each side. The next time you come to the left side, pause. And then let your head roll forward and pause and center. So let your head drop down, relax your shoulders. And then inhale as you lift your head and exhale, tip your head back. And now we're going to feel a stretch around our throats. Breathe into it. And then on your next inhale, bring your head back to neutral. Relax your shoulders, your arms, your hands, your back. And now we're going to warm up our upper bodies just a little bit before we pick that block up. We're going to be using the block sort of as a, maybe not a weight, because the foam blocks don't really weigh that much. These blocks here weigh like 2 pounds, maybe 3 pounds. So you could also use a book if you prefer, if you want to actually do a little weight lifting here. That's up to you. So just roll your shoulders a couple times, loosen everything up, and then bring your arms down by your sides. And let's start with wrist circles. So just move your hands in some circles. We're sitting up tall and holding our bellies in. So we're not just working our wrists here, we're also working our core, belly, sides, and back. And then reverse. And turn your palms so they face up and pause. Spread your fingers out. And then inhale up overhead. And exhale down to your heart. Take a breath here. And then we'll bring our arms back down by our sides and inhale up again. And exhale down to your heart. Belly is still pulled in. And we're going to do that one more time. Arms down by your sides. Inhale up. And exhale down to your heart. And pause. All right. Now let's turn our fingertips so they face forward. Press our arms out parallel to the floor. Palms stay together. Breathe into it. Spreading your shoulder blades. Your chest sinks in just a little. And then bend your elbows. Bring your hands back to your heart. And you can press your hands towards each other if you want to create a little more tension here, or you can just let your hands rest together softly. Then we're going to come up to 45 degrees, palms stay together. We're going to do the same thing when we grab that block. So we're just warming up that session with our block. And then bend your elbows, bring your hands back to your heart and pause. Relax your shoulders. We're going to press our arms straight up. Palms stay together, reach up. You can keep your head in neutral, or if you like, tip your head back so you're looking up towards the ceiling. Reach up. This time we're going to release a little differently. So turn your palms away from each other. And then as you exhale, bring your arms down by your sides and roll your shoulders. Right. Go ahead and grab that block. I'm just turning the music off, so if you notice a difference, don't panic. I decided it was even a little too loud for me. So, sorry, we're going to grab the block, sit up tall, and repeat the same movements we just did with our arms. So hold your block like this. So you're holding on to the bigger sides of the block between your hands, and then press your arms out in front of you. And this is just a little different sensation. Sometimes it's good to repeat our yoga poses throughout the session because our bodies tend to remember. And it deepens that memory in your body and your cells. So just notice how different this feels from when we did it a minute ago with our palms together. And then bend your elbows and bring the block next to your heart. And again, press in if you like, or just hold on loosely. And now we're going to come up to 45 degrees. So still pressing into that block, bringing your arms out 45 degrees. Now it's a little more challenging. You got to hold on to that block, especially if you're using one of these heavier blocks. A little more effort. All right, let's bend our elbows and bring our hands and the block back to our hearts. Relax your shoulders. And of course, you can choose not to even use the block. So this is always up to you. And then we'll press our arms straight up. One more breath. Then bend your elbows. Bring your hands back to your heart. Relax your shoulders. And now let's bring that block down back between our feet. So stand it the tall side up. And relax your arms, your shoulders, move your shoulders if you like. And then we'll continue to warm up our torsos. We're going to use the block again when we do our forward fold. All right. Whew. So let's bring our arms down by our sides. And one time, inhale up and exhale down to your heart. Just completing that sequence. And so next is a side stretch, and you can do this with the block if you like. I'll show it both ways. So side stretch without the block is simply lifting your left arm up and leaning to the right. If you want to use the block, if you want to add that extra effort, grab the block, lift it up with your left arm and lean to the right. One more breath. And then release your left arm down. If you're holding the block, go ahead and bring it over to your right hand. Left hand is on your thigh. Right arm reaches up. Lean to the left. Breathe into it. One more breath. And then inhale, release your right arm down. If you're holding on to the block, let's just put it between our knees. That just changes everything. So if your block is on the floor, go ahead and bring it up to your knees, between your knees. So you've got to have a little extra effort here in your thighs to hold on to it. Doesn't matter how heavy or light it is, you still want to hold on to it. And so from here, we're going to move into a spinal twist. And this block is going to keep our legs facing forward. Sometimes when we do our twist, we start to twist our lower bodies, and that's kind of taken away from the twist. So when you're ready, turn your torso to the right and find your twist. Okay, and then just breathe into it. So all these stretches that we do 2 or 3 times a week changes everything when you start to add a block or a strap. Changes the sensation just a little bit. Let's take a couple more breaths. And then when you're ready, on an inhale, start to come back to center. And then as you exhale, start to move to the left. Your legs stay right where they are. And find your twist on the left side. So you're twisting from the waist. This is where you're going to feel the sensation here in your waist, the middle back. Maybe you feel it in your chest a little. Breathe into it. One more breath. And then again, on an inhale, slowly come back to center. And then once you get there, roll your shoulders, move your ribs. Sometimes your body just does this naturally. You don't even have to think about it. Okay, so now we're going to do cats and cows, and we're going to keep the block here. This is all, again, optional, but let's turn it. So right now you might notice that my legs are sort of pointing inward. For cats and cows, we want equal amounts of space. We want our legs parallel to our hips. So we don't want our knees in. We don't want our legs way out. So for cats and cows, this is a perfect amount of space here. So turn your block if you're using it. So you're looking at the big flat side. Make sure you're stable in your chair. And then let's just start with a cat pose. So round your back, let your head drop down and just feel your spine. Let's take a couple more breaths. And then on your next inhale, lift yourself up and exhale into cow pose, arching your back, lifting your chest. Legs are stable. Holding on to that block. And now let's flow with our breath here. Inhaling to neutral, exhaling to cat. Inhaling to neutral, exhaling to cow. And we'll do that 4 more times. Inhale, neutral, exhale, cat. Inhale, neutral, exhale, cow. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. 2 more times. After your next cow pose, slowly bring yourself back to neutral. If you've got the block here between your legs, go ahead and bring the block back down between your feet. And let's just take a little rest here, just a couple breaths. And then we're going to move into forward fold with our hands on our thighs. And then we'll come down a little farther, and we've got that block there to bring our hands to. So make sure you're nice and stable. You're sitting up tall and you're hinging at the hips. So your back stays flat as you start to come down. We're not rounding or arching our backs. And then we pause. As soon as we feel our low backs, we pause right there. Hands on your thighs. And now you can stay right here. This can be your pose right here. Or you can start to come down a little farther, sliding your hands down your legs and looking for that block. Letting your hands rest on the top of that block. And at the very end, let your back start to round, let your head drop down. Let's take a couple more breaths. And then with your hands on your thighs or on your block, use your arms to lift yourself up. Take a breath or two. Now we're going to add a little twist here. So we normally do this with our hands on our thighs. Today we're going to try it with one hand on the block if you're using a block. So I'm giving instructions for both ways. So either way is fine. And if you remember this, we come into forward fold, starting with your hands on your thighs. If you're using a block, take your right hand down to your block. And then take your left hand to your shoulder. Either way, left hand to your shoulder. Press your left shoulder back, and that's your twist. One more breath. And then to come out of this safely, we start at the left shoulder. Start to roll your shoulder down towards your left thigh. Let your left hand rest on your left thigh. Bring your right hand back up to your right thigh, and then start to reverse that pose. Your left hand stays on your left thigh or comes down to your block. Your right hand comes to your right shoulder, and then press your right shoulder back. And breathe into it. Couple more breaths. And again, when we come out of this, we start at that shoulder, your right shoulder. Roll your shoulder, your chest forward. Both hands come to your thighs. Use your arms to lift yourself back up. And then we'll pause right here. Take a couple breaths. Maybe move your shoulders again, maybe move your ribs. Just check in with yourself. Notice how you feel. If there's anything you want to do to find equilibrium. And then we're going to go ahead and stand up. We're going to use the block for our standing sequence. So just keep it nearby if you're using it. So go ahead and come up and come behind your chair. And let's just start with a simple calf stretch. Warming up our legs before we do anything else. So step your right foot straight back and press into your heel, bending your left knee, adjusting your stance any way you need to so that you can feel the energy moving down the back of your right leg. Lengthening the back of your right leg. One more breath. And then we're stepping right back to mountain pose. All right. And then step your left foot straight back, press into your heel, bend your right knee, adjusting your stance any way you need to. Again, now you're feeling it on the left side. One more breath. And then we'll come back to mountain pose again. So find your mountain pose. Sometimes it helps to look down at your feet. Make sure you have a straight line from your hips through your knees down to your ankles. Sometimes one foot will come forward. We may feel it in our bodies, but we don't notice it unless we look down. So you want to be in a nice, stable mountain pose. Take a couple breaths. And then we're going to do just a little bit of movement here to build up some energy in our bodies. And then we're going to do a chair flow today with the block. So to get that energy moving, step back a little bit away from your chair, but your fingertips are still on the chair. We're just going to move from this modified crane pose to warrior three. So we'll start in warrior three, and we'll do 5 times on each side. So actually we start in mountain pose always. And then lift your right leg up behind you as you lean down, and we'll pause here for a couple breaths. And then as you inhale, bend your right knee and bring your thigh in front of you parallel to the floor. And let's do 3 breaths here, and then we'll start to move. And now on an inhale, begin your movement. Exhale, press your leg behind you. Inhale, come forward. Exhale, crane pose. Inhale, stretch back. Exhale when you get there. Inhale, forward. Exhale when you get there. 3 more times. One more time. And then we're back to mountain pose. So take a minute and ground yourself again. And then we'll lift the left leg up into warrior 3. And then inhale as you bring your left leg forward. Pause here for 3 breaths. And again, 5 times with our breath. So we're inhaling as we make that transition and exhaling into each pose. Inhale forward. Exhale when you get there. Inhale back. Exhale when you get there. One more time. And then release your left foot down. Step back away from your chair. Shake your legs, pat your hips, pat your thighs. All right. So now we're going to do our chair flow. I think we have time to do that 3 times. We may not have time for Qigong at the end, but we'll see what happens. And so for this flow, if you're using the block, you're going to put it between your legs, okay, between your knees, and then come into mountain pose. So this really keeps your legs still, keeps your legs stable, keeps you in mountain pose, right? It keeps your feet and your ankles lined up with your hips. Okay, so it's the same chair pose that we do without the block. So here we go. Inhale up, exhale, lean back, lift your chest, and take a few breaths. And then we're coming into airplane pose. So inhale up, exhale and hinge at the hips, arms out like an airplane, and keep your knees slightly bent. You're still holding onto your block, but you still want your knees soft. And then on your next exhale, come down a little farther. Your hands can be on your thighs, your shins, the floor, your chair. You have lots of options for your hands. And then to come up into chair pose, we're going to bend our knees, hands on your thighs, lift your chest. And then when you feel stable, bring your arms out in front of you into chair pose. Hold your belly in. we're just gonna flow right into the next set. So we'll do that 2 more times. Inhale all the way up and exhale, lean back. Take a few breaths. And then inhale back up and exhale into airplane pose. Belly pulled in. Knees are soft. And then forward fold. Hands on your thighs, your shins, the floor or the chair. One more breath. And then bend your knees with your hands on your thighs, lift your chest. Find your focal point straight out in front of you. And then raise your arms out in front of you. Breathe into it, your legs are working hard. They need that oxygen, so breathe in, breathe out. Feel the circular motion of your breath. And then inhale up, exhale back. This is our last set. Breathe 2 or 3 times here. And then again, inhale up, exhale, airplane pose. And now forward fold. Couple more breaths. And then bend your knees with your hands on your thighs. Lift your chest again. One more time. Belly pulled in, looking straight ahead. Arms come out into chair pose. Breathe into it. And then when you're ready, inhale up. This time we're going to exhale. We bring our palms together, down to our hearts, and relax our shoulders. And if you're using the block, just leave the block where it is for the moment. So you can sort of get your equilibrium first. Feel the strength in your mountain pose. Feel how strong you are. We all have strength, even when we don't feel strong. It's there. Physically, mentally, spiritually, we all have strength. All right. If you're using the block, you can now release it, put it down to the floor, and just move around any way you feel the need to move. And I think we'll come back to our chairs. We'll do a little bit of Qigong movement in our chairs so that we feel complete. We don't feel like we're missing anything. I'm going to sit a little farther back from the camera. So get settled in your chair. You might move forward just a little bit because we will be moving just a little bit. Take a couple of deep breaths. Let yourself sigh if that feels good. All right. And then when you're ready, bring your palms together, rub your hands softly You could do this standing if you like. If you were going to do this standing, you'd just be in a wide stance. Sometimes it feels good to just sit and let your upper body do some work. Today we're going to do some passing clouds. So you might imagine you're creating clouds in your hands. And then when you turn to the right, bring your right hand up, left hand faces down by your belly. And then as you inhale, move to the left. Exhale, let your palms pass, change positions, and then move back to the right. So we're inhaling on the right side, exhaling on the left side. Inhale. Exhale. Sometimes we can make our exhales longer than our inhales. Notice if that's true for you. Is your inhale a little longer or is your exhale a little longer? Doesn't matter as long as you're aware. The next time we come to the left side, let's pause there. So your left palm is up, your right palm is down. And then start your movement on an inhale. So as you inhale, start to move to the right. And then as you exhale, let your palms pass and move back to the left. Inhaling on the left, exhaling on the right. Now, since we're doing this in the chair, we could do a little experiment here and close our eyes. So let's see what happens if you close your eyes while you're doing this. Does your body remember these movements? Do you need to see what you're doing? Now let's go one more time to each side. And then we'll pause in the center. Bring our hands down to our bellies, relaxing our shoulders. And go ahead and close your eyes if you haven't already. Feel the energy in your hands. And imagine you're sending love and acceptance into your body through your hands. And stay like this a little longer if you like, or slide your hands down to your thighs, slide back in your chair so that you can rest. Let your shoulders relax. Don't worry so much about your posture because you just worked your whole body. Your posture is fine. Now you can relax and just breathe. Let's take 3 more mindful breaths. And then when you're ready, start to move any way that feels natural to you. Maybe it's your head, maybe it's your shoulders or your hands. Just start to bring yourself back. And then we'll rub our hands together. And we'll end our yoga practice together today, as usual. Opening your hands out to the sides, inhaling up, exhaling down to your heart. Namaste.